choice of first pick on red side. A lot of the bans, pretty normal, although the Mundo creeping up to a first round ban. That is just a reflection of how strong this tank jungler has risen in priority for a lot of teams, because other than Malphite, no other tank is really being played in the jungle right now.
Yeah, it's a very carry jungle oriented meta, as we can see with the J-Span coming in. Even something like the Jarvan, much more of a playmaker. It's going to be interesting to see if the Mundo continues to get taken off the board for WE. It certainly felt like they liked having that front to back with Monki being a primary initiator, but they're going to have to move off of that. Monki obviously very adept at carries, but the question is, can the rest of the team adapt around that and start to play around the jungle position? It was something that really struggled in at Demacia Cup, so with the Malphite left up, it could be a very easy first pick, and it's going to get locked in here for Junhao.
Okay, here's my question. WE, are you going to be one of our first teams that punishes this Malphite and goes for an AP jungler? Sylas has been open for quite a few times when Malphite does get through. Other times, teams preemptively ban the Sylas so that they don't have access to the unstoppable force. Trundle is the other option. Krako was the one that showed it to us in Demacia Cup, reminding the world, like, hey, this guy still exists as a champion. And for Monki, who... mechanics-wise, even though we know that he is a great player, his form recently has been a little under what we have expected from him. So grabbing Trundle, I think it's a great way to just try and bounce back and get your form back up to par with what we expect from you.
Yeah, and I think specifically it allows Monki to just be so much more aggressive in terms of how he wants to play the early game out. I think when this team was at their best last year, you're looking at a team that plays through their own tempo. They're not reactive. They're very proactive in the way that they play the map, and I think this is a pick that allows them to do that. But ThunderTalk not going down without a fight here. They're going to lock in the Misfortune. We've seen MF Prio go up super high. It's no secret right now that early game is very important, that being able to snowball and generate leads as quickly as possible is one of the more relevant ways to win the game, and Misfortune is just one of the easiest ways to capitalize on a Malphite ultimate, or perhaps an engage coming out from something like an Alistar or a Nautilus in the support position. So no real surprise to see that paired up. It's a very strong bot lane, and I think ThunderTalk is going to have a pretty easy time controlling tempo even against the Bears.
I'm a little miffed that they picked the Misfortune in front of a Trundle, because you just throw up the pillar and you displace that bullet time from getting a full channel off. But maybe if Ryan 3 can, or let's just call him Ryan. Ryan can pick his moments and make sure that he is not easily accessible in pillar range when he goes for the ult rips. There's the Sylas. I mean, come on, guys. We had to have seen this coming, but I guess being ThunderTalk's first series with this roster, a lot of LDL players being promoted to the tier 1 stage. Sometimes you just have to say, guys, ignore what they have, just play simple to execute champions, and let's just figure out what makes this team work and click together.
You're exactly right. ThunderTalk's probably like, it's fine, you know, Sylas is over there. But WE sure are feeling pretty good right now about locking in Sylas. I mean, you're looking at Malphite, Misfortune, Nautilus on the other side. This is maybe the best Sylas angle you could possibly ask for. And we were talking about it. Karis is a flank master. This is somebody who's constantly looking to find engage angles onto squishies. We already talked about the Trundle pillar interrupting bullet time. Well, now you've got a Sylas that could jump on and just instantly kill this Misfortune in the right circumstance. This is so much setup for WE. They certainly have a lot of the priority on the map right now. The question is, where are they going to move it? We see, of course, mid lane bans coming out from WE. The Rise and the LeBlanc make a lot of sense against Heru, just to try and slow down the game, become a little bit more, you know, standardized, or maybe match that aggression in the LeBlanc's case. But it's going to be a pretty tall order. There are very few picks here that I think could, you know, really make this game easier for ThunderTalk at this point.
Yeah, WE already took away a couple of mid lane options that they thought could have abused Sylas during the laning phase before he got online. LeBlanc definitely would have been a nice way for Heru to debut on the tier 1 stage. Now, the only thing I can think of, if you want to get really creative, is flex the Malphite to top lane and then put something else in the jungle so that you don't have to scrap with the Trundle. Obviously, the Trundle's still going to get some value off with the Subjugate passive, or the Subjugate ultimate, when he gets into the fight, but at least you don't have to lose every single skirmish, and maybe another champion could fit the bill. Now, Mbessa is flexible both in jungle and top lane, so it's not certain where either of these champions are going to go. And ThunderTalk, They have their last pick option. What does Heru want to take into the 4 champions WE is showing?
Azir makes sense just from a Heru champion pool perspective. It's certainly one of his more comfortable with things like the Akali and the Rise taken off the board. Those were definitely kind of his go-tos, and it will be the Azir. But you're absolutely right. This is still a double flex, which opens up so many options for WE. I mean, they're hovering obviously something really aggressive here. I think they have the luxury of potentially just going something really greedy, but they're going to lock in the Yorick. We saw this for Cube in game number 2 against EDG in their previous series. He was really able to control side lanes effectively in that game. It's one of the better games we've seen from Cube in a while. And now that we're looking at the comps as a whole, I think it's really clear what the directions of each look like. For ThunderTalk, obviously it matters what order they go in here with the Malphite and the Mbessa, but generally you are looking at a team that does kind of spike a lot in the mid game, has a lot of power around not only the level 6, but around the Misfortune, if you can get her into a good spot and get that rolling in the 2v2. Whereas I think, you know, WE is going to be a little bit more straightforward. You know, you're just going to be pressing your buttons here and making sure you can get that Sylas online.
And like you said, Kman, as soon as the first 3 champions were showing, all 3 of them had great ultimates for Sylas to just constantly rotate off of. He can get Death Charge for a single target lockdown, Unstoppable Force for a 3-man ultimate, and if someone else does the engaging for him, well, he's just going to follow up with Bullet Time. And the fact that they already have things like a Braum to absorb that Bullet Time, or the Pillar, as we talked about, to just displace it, on paper, this composition draft seems overwhelmingly favored for WE, but there are some ways that ThunderTalk, the fact that you have simple and reliable ways to execute these team fights, and if you are able to play through mid and bot lane where your push is pretty darn strong early on, then hopefully that is the game plan. ThunderTalk, just stack some dragons, get your first spikes online, and hope that Team WE don't outplay you with the tools available to them.
Yeah, if you can say anything about the ThunderTalk comp, it's easier. I mean, you press your R key and everything kind of works itself out. So that is certainly what they're going to be looking at in this game, is just the more consistent setups and the more consistent execution coming from easier setups. So, you know, we're going to see if their engage is going to be able to match. I really like WE's comp. I think the side lane pressure is something we haven't really talked about. Yorick, Trundle, Sylas in terms of side lane split push pressure is going to be very difficult to answer for a comp that really needs to 5v5 on the other side of the map. So I think WE definitely feeling comfortable, but at the end of the day, when you're talking about, you know, the first series of the year for a couple of these teams, for ThunderTalk, it's all about execution and it's all about comfort.
Yep. ThunderTalk Gaming getting ready to give a majority of their rookies their first taste of some of the highest level of play here in the LPL after having a great season in the LDL the previous year. This is now what it's all about. Getting that first step forward onto a bigger stage with better competition and just cutting your teeth and seeing where you stand amongst the rest of the pool. It looks like we might have some technical issues on stage since we are kind of just floating back and forth between some of these player cameras and some wide POV shots. We haven't gotten a chance to just do the whole zoom in for the crowd, so we're just biding our time before we kick things off for our first series of the night.
Yeah, just waiting a little bit. Hopefully it's not too long. I really like a point you made, though, Raafaa, in talking about how this is kind of a proving ground for a lot of these players, not only individually, of course, players like Keshi and Heru that we talked about having success at the LDL level, but I think the opinion of LDL champions is actually, you know, kind of up for debate right now. And I think this is a big chance for these players to come in and say, we were the best in Tier 2. We deserve our shot in Tier 1, and we can take down one of the better teams in Group Perseverance.
Well, let's see if the best in Tier 2 has what it takes to start playing with some of the strongest here in LPL. Group Perseverance, a potential battle for the top of this squad, starts now.
We've got some pretty standard setups here. Oh, we got the Gyos coming in. I missed him out. Oh, hook already landing.
I always love that about the LPL.
Yes.
It's a nice way to warm things up and get things kicked off for our first game and just in general. We saw a little bit of trading on this bot lane duo, Ryan and Feather trying to get into the face of About and Yaoyao. Nice dredge line snag right after the minion wave did die. Good proc of the summoner heal. And so far, Ryan and Feather getting a nice bit of control in this bot lane. We'll see if Junhao and the rest of the squad can make use of it later.
I mean, that's the dream. It's why you draft the Misfortune. This is why she's been so effective throughout the LPL so far, is that 2v2 pressure she can generate against almost any lane, even counters like the Braum. But you're right, the junglers are going to be pretty important here today. Both of them going to be clearing down, so we might get some action a little bit early on. I'm sure Monki is going to be looking. This is a comp that I think does want to get going at least a little bit quickly. If you can get gold onto priority targets or, you know, really push that bot lane back into an even state, it's going to get a lot more difficult for ThunderTalk.
Oh, look at this. Monki has skipped his entire bot side. He wants to be here early and put a stop to the pressure from Ryan. The flash away from the pillar, but a guaranteed flash right on top. Monki back in prime form with first blood for Team WE.
And I guess ask and I shall receive. I was literally just talking about how I wanted to see him try and get his bot lane into the game. And what does he do? He goes and grabs that first blood. We've been asking for more from Monki, and he is delivering right now. That is a huge, huge pickup. That Trundle is going to be very accelerated, and that could be a pretty big problem for a ThunderTalk team that was really relying on their bot lane being ahead.
It's only the first kill of the game, but looks like that are what give Team WE fans hope that Monki is returning to the peaks that we saw back in 2025, where Team WE, for the most part and a majority, was struggling as a whole, but it was Monki, it was Vampire working together to really be the engine that made WE pull off miracle upsets like against Top Esports in that split 2 lower semifinal. Now Monki getting ready to challenge Junhao on the top side. Crab. Keshi is going to roam on over. I think that's just enough for Monki to back off and give this grab over to Junhao.
I've been waiting for this Monki to return to the jungle. I have been waiting for the player who just wants to fight all the time, who doesn't care what the game state looks like, who's just looking for as much gold and as many resources as he can generate, and it looks like we have returned to that phase for him. I imagine that will get even more apparent as we continue to watch. Cube with at least a nice trade here, as we potentially have a pretty bad lane state for Keshi on the top side, but Monki already making his way back down to the bot lane.
And what a time to show up on the tri-bush. Feather had just hooked in with the dredge line. Ryan knows that his support is not long for this world. The pillar will guarantee that he's put in his place, and About will be gift wrapped another kill in this lane.
It's just a big mistake from Feather. They have to know that Monki is on the bottom side of the map after he gives up that top crab, but they don't, and so they end up getting punished very heavily. It's a kill this time onto About, and we know what About can do with resources. The later this game goes, it's just more and more resources and gold going in favor of WE. They have almost a 1k gold lead 5 minutes into the game.
Now, one of the trade-offs that is happening in the jungle right now is that Junhao, while acknowledging that Monki is definitely creating a lot of advantages in the bot lane for About and Yaoyao, he is power farming on this Malphite. He's trying to get to level 6 as fast as possible, and he has a huge level lead at the moment. Should be able to hit level 6 off of the next rotation of camps. And once he has that online, he has the potential to rectify the wrongdoings that have happened to Ryan and Feather in their early bot lane.
And that's exactly what ThunderTalk have to hope for right now. They have to hope that that level 6 power spike is enough for them to play aggressive off of, because the moment that they start taking these equal fights, things get a lot more difficult. But you're right, that level advantage is going to be there. The question now is, Junhao, what do you do with it? Where do you want to put that pressure? Right now, it's going towards the dragon on the bottom side of the map. We'll see if he wants to full prio it or potentially go for another bot lane gank. Monki's in the area, though.
Spotted on the control ward. Wants to be able to take it out before
Karis is here. He's got the ult.
Oh, no. Unstoppable Force was stolen away, and Junhao recognizes the threat, but the flash committed by Karis says, "Good night, Rock Monster." WE now with 3 kills on the board.
Unfortunately, level 6 did not come soon enough for Junhao. It's an aggressive play from Karis, but it's a really big misplay from the jungler of ThunderTalk. Just staying in the area way too long. He commits his flash, but turns around because he thinks he might be able to salvage some play with his mid laner, or perhaps just wants to stay in the area, and he gets punished hard. This is a huge lead for WE, and they have full control of game number 1.
Junhao yet to hit level 6, but dying in that river allows Monki to catch up on XP so that both of these junglers are going to hit level 6 at the same time. So there's not this window where Junhao has the most agency on the map. He's going to hit level 6 and now have access to the unstoppable force, but without Flash, your threat level for making that first gank goes down a little bit in terms of guarantee for the play.
Yeah, and now you're even looking at lanes like bot lane getting more difficult for ThunderTalk. Like, you need jungle intervention down on the bottom side to make sure that Yaoyao just can't pressure this entire lane out forever. And it's so tough because if you're committing Malphite down there, then you're not really utilizing that ultimate that you now have an advantage of, at least over someone like Karis, who normally would be able to match. So Junhao's really in a tough position. The one saving grace right now is, I guess, that Keshi is going even on the top side as Ambessa, but that might not be lasting for too much longer with Yorick pressure.
The vision that WE has had on Junhao this game has been stellar. They've marked out his top camps for the first and second rotations. They've marked out this Gromp on the third rotation. Junhao is not going to get any sneaky flanks anytime soon in our first 7 minutes of the game. Neither jungler, though, has been able to use their priority and look for the first dragon of the game. We are about 15 seconds from grub spawning. And if you have something like a Yorick on your team, and when you already mentioned Sylas and Trundle's ability to take down turrets swiftly in the split push, I imagine that W are going to be wanting to send some of their strongest members to the top side to contest for grub soon.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that I fear more than Yorick, Trundle, Sylas with all three grubs, so I do imagine that there will be some sort of investment coming in from ThunderTalk. We get some pings coming down, though. It looks like Dragon might be on the menu first. We'll see what the trade is. Karis taking a little bit of damage in lane, but of course, as Sylas, he's going to be able to heal it up quick. We might just be looking at a trade of objectives here.
Yeah. You can see that WE at least were putting the pressure on ThunderTalk so they didn't get the dragon right away for free. Instead of trading objectives, they just want to fight. They believe that they are way stronger than them, but remember, Karis does not have access to Unstoppable Force because that particular cooldown takes a little bit longer early on. Monki flashing over! He steals the dragon, but that means Karis is compromised and he gets knocked up by ThunderTalk's squad. WE trying to fight this one out, 3v4, but health bars are low on Junhao and Feather, but no one gets dropped. At least they got a dragon for Team WE, but Karis had to pay for it.
Oh, I'm so excited that Group Perseverance is living up to the hype that we had for it, because that is a ridiculous play. Monki committing the flash to get that dragon. He does start to stack it, which is pretty huge for WE. One of ThunderTalk's win conditions in this game could be to scale things out and play those front to backs, but Monki said, no thanks, I'm flashing over the wall, I do not care, the pillar is down. You're getting exhausted, Junhao. Do not worry. Unfortunately, it leaves his mid laner completely out to dry, so it's always going to be a 1-for-1, but I think the big thing here is that Feather actually gets out alive, and that really turns things at least slightly in favor of ThunderTalk being a 1-4-0, but WE grabbing the dragon, and as we can see, grabbing the grubs as well.
Yeah, even with a ward on the grub pit, no one from ThunderTalk can challenge Monki right now. Doesn't have the Trinity Force yet, but Phage and Sheen this early on is setting up Monki to be quite the menace on this Trundle in our first game of the series.
Yeah, this comp is looking scary. It's looking dangerous for WE. Yeah, it's all just going to be execution from this point onwards. Karis is a big part of this comp. One thing to note, Heru did pick up the kill in that exchange onto Karis, and so the Azir completed the Nashor's Tooth, is in a relatively good spot right now at level 9. Once that ultimate comes back up, you can look to be a bit more aggressive with the CS lead generated in the mid lane, but Monki is not done with the bot lane just yet. He is back again to terrorize ThunderTalk.
With the Trinity Force power spike, I also would like to just use my power and terrorize the map. ThunderTalk have to fear this Trundle, one of the strongest champions on this item spike, who, if he gets in range of you and he's just allowed to Q, auto you, you just can't win. There's no way to beat this guy. Junhao, however, notices that Keshi's lane has been awfully quiet the first 10 minutes. Oh no. Oh no.
Ooh, this could be
Cube
big.
is about to TP in. He's gonna lose a lot of his HP as soon as he gets in range, and he walks up to the wave. There it is. Unstoppable Force and Cube. I'm so sorry, brother, but you're gonna have to go back to the fountain.
And the Yorick gets put a little bit further behind. Look at, you know, just the way that this lane is set up. Keshi was in a great spot to capitalize on that. I guess it wasn't a dive. It could have been a dive, but it didn't even need to be with Cube walking up to the wave. And, oh, unfortunately, Keshi might have overstayed. Monki's in the area. He's a couple levels down, though, and Junhao's still here.
Wait a minute. Yo, he just gave him
That's
the
a
raw
3-level difference right there.
Keshi, wait, he wants to tangle with him under the tower. Subjugate is gonna give him the extra resistances and a little bit of the HP drain. Keshi, very content that he just got a Trundle ulti practically for free as he forced Monki to respond.
I'm so happy we hyped up the BLGJ players in the pregame here because they really are the win condition for ThunderTalk right now. Heru, 500 gold up onto Karis with that kill, slight level lead, and same thing for Keshi as we just saw with his dominance. The Eclipse completed for the Ambessa. This is a big, big moment for the two new players on ThunderTalk to step up and be able to really put the team on their back. Junhao will have ultimate back up around the next time that these plays are going to be made. Just over a minute on that Ocean Dragon spawning. We know WE is going to want that.
Their game plan has been strangleholding every objective away from ThunderTalk's pockets. And so far, they've done a good job with it. Role quests are coming in now, Kman, top lane, bot lane, and support for Team WE, whereas the entire top side of ThunderTalk have achieved theirs in respective. Now, briefly, the only ones that I usually care about are things like Super Teleport being accessible for top laners, as well as junglers now having access to a 1400 smite. Makes things a little bit easier to secure objectives in the midst of all the chaos that usually happens. 35 seconds away from the second dragon of the game. Junhao first here for the crab, and just trying to give ThunderTalk as much information as possible.
Yep, it's just good setup here from ThunderTalk. They want to make sure that when they inevitably lose control of this river, they still have the ability to fight it out. WE actually very quietly with a couple of plays going down in gold, or at least even in gold after their strong start. ThunderTalk is indexing quite a few resources. Junhao does have the ultimate available if he wants to pull the trigger. Looks like it's just clearing right now, but
not connect onto About.
On his way.
All three of them are there. Bullet time running to 2. About wasn't caught in the crossfire, but Monki was, and Yaoyao will fall next. That's a way to secure the dragon for yourself.
It's extreme disrespect from WE, just not, I guess, respecting that ThunderTalk can pull the trigger, that they are in the area, and that they can use the ultimates to kill them. It's a perfect combo coming in from ThunderTalk as they bring Heru down, and they're going to be able to pick up the dragon for this, stop the stacking. All that you can really trade is some damage on the mid lane turret, a bit of gold for Karis, but once again, it's a big win for ThunderTalk, and all of a sudden, it's a 2k gold lead here. So we see this replay. They see everyone on vision. The hook doesn't even land coming in from Feather. They just walk up and want to try and poke out, but the combo's there. I mean, the Malphite ult into bullet time is just unstoppable, even with the Braum shield.
In that moment, Kman, as soon as you see 3 people in the vicinity, just in that same circle, alarms are just flashing off in my mind. And it does not take a high-level League of Legends player as a Malphite pilot to be like, oh, they're all grouped up. Boom. Come on, WE. Let's be a bit more respectful about our opponents. But now ThunderTalk being able to claim their first objective of the game, now with a solid gold lead here at 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge for them. WE, Monki is going to start up here on the Herald, but everybody is in the area. We could be looking at another fight already. Malphite ult up in 2 seconds for the engage.
6,000 HP on Rift Herald. Heru trying to poke on the left side. Feather with the dredge line. Camera goes back over to the bot.
Oh.
Wait, what's going to happen on the Rift Herald?
What's going on?
Observers, please! Okay, Rift Herald is secured by WE. You know what? Observers, my bad. They knew that the Rift Herald fight was about to completely fizzle out. Maybe they saw something else with Keshi and Karis, but nothing happens.
That is an unbelievable amount of trust, and it turns out to be the perfect call from the observers to show some trading on the bottom side. It just ends up being Herald for nothing. All well and good. I assume Junhao was going to pull the trigger on the ultimate, but they want to play it a little bit slower. They might want to use their resources here on Karis on the bot side. Monki is in the area. I don't know if he'll be in time, though.
Oh!
Flash.
Okay, well, you know what? Karis did have to flash. Low-key, I think the range was just outside of Karis' character model, but he respected it. He did not want to risk dying, and at the end of the day, someone else is going to have to take this wave while Karis takes a recall.
Yeah, this is a tough spot here for WE to try and get themselves out of. It looked really good for a little while, but now I think you have some pretty big gold deficits on some pretty important members. We talked about how important the Silas was towards this comp. He's not really going to have easy access to an engage at this point, as long as he's being properly zoned by Keshi or by Feather in these fights. And I think it's going to be really important that they get that interrupt on the bullet time. Still plenty of tools in WE's kit to be able to disrupt a lot of these fights, but the gold is definitely in favor of Azir and Mbessa right now, which is always a scary proposition.
Herald has been dropped by WE. Karis is wrapping around the flank. His hijack of this unstoppable force is starting to run out, so if he wants to rip it, the next 30 seconds is going to have to be the time. But everyone backs off from the turret siege. And Karis, you may see him just randomly dash. Yo, just go in on Keshi. Use your ultimate. It's about to run out anyway. Protobelt for the chase.
They're bringing the squad.
Unstoppable force forces the flash out of Keshi. He locks him down with the upscon up duck. There's the glacial fissure for the knockup. Monki, public execution for the rearrange. Not in time. Not even a reposition with the ultimate saves him. And it's a big shutdown going into Karis' hands.
Yeah, very important for them to be able to get that specifically onto the Silas. We talked about how relevant he's going to be, and he needs to have the damage to immediately break through. It is going to be traded for a tower on the bot side. That is a pretty big pickup for the Azir, whose gold lead continues to grow on his own, but Junhao might have stayed a little too long.
Subjugate on top of Junhao as well, just to sap all of the... Actually, I lied. There's no subjugate. Already used that ultimate a while ago. So Junhao just gets contested on some Krugs and cannot defend this turret from falling. That's a tier 1 in the top lane going down.
Yeah, it's definitely lucky for Junhao to be able to get out of there. I think a full commit with Karis there could have been a bit of a problem, but they don't want to pull the trigger on it. Junhao's still in a decently good spot. We were talking about him being behind in the early game, but he's caught up in XP. He's actually a level ahead of Monki at this point because of the game state. That Malphite is going to be a massive issue if it can land on the right targets. About still with the only gold lead on the side of WE, though. That is definitely where you want to look if you are a WE fan. About stepped up really, really big in their series against EDG. He's going to need to do so again here today.
ThunderTalk still have the gold lead on their side. Dusk and Dawn has been completed for Heru. I'm not going to lie, Kman. This is the first time I've seen an Azir build this item, or at least paid attention. Because I know that Nashor still remains core. Looking for Karis, though, right into the alley-oop of an unstoppable force. Beautiful work by Heru and Junhao.
We talked about it. The ease of execution of this comp is incredibly easy for ThunderTalk. If you catch one person out, they are gone. And with Dragon spawning, that is a free objective for ThunderTalk that is going to be almost impossible to try and contest. Monki going to try so anyways because that's where he's at, but there'll be nothing. Yaoyao, though,
going for the tier 1 instead. That's the play for WE. Yaoyao trying to give as much of his health bar so that Monki has enough time to siege. They take out the tier 1, but the Glacial Fissure slows down ThunderTalk as they look for a re-engage. There's no unstoppable force. Junhao forced to flash away, but the Chain of Corruption slows him down and gets him rooted. That's a big shutdown going over to About, and the rest of ThunderTalk are forced to give ground.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge for WE. It's a bit of an overextension from ThunderTalk. They just played a little bit too quick. If they play that a tad bit slower, I think they're actually able to pick up quite a lot there once Keshi is able to enter the fight. But that might be what we're worried about with a team that doesn't have as much tier 1 experience. Are they going to play fights a little bit too fast? Right now, Monki taking quite a bit from Keshi. He's got the ultimate available. Not going to pull the trigger, though, with About in the area. So it's just going to be a nice trade, and we've seen that gold swing go back and forth, and we've ended with only a 500 gold difference.
Okay, man, I want to go back to the conversation about Keshi and Heru, because while this game has been quite chaotic and definitely a bit favored towards WE in terms of the early explosiveness, both of these solo laners have been able to squeeze out some advantages, and Junhao has been able to leverage them to now a point where Keshi is 2 items, Heru's 2.5 items. These are the 2 solo laners that you were hyping up from the BLG junior squad, and this could be a moment, if we are fighting around the Baron and these 2 solo laners pop off, that is a very exciting sign for ThunderTalk's year in 2026.
Yeah, they are the core right now of what to be excited about with ThunderTalk. This top side has looked good, but it's all about the execution.
Junhao
pulled.
looking for the left side. Keshi with the public execution follow-up. Cube forced to flash over the wall, but rest of
He's out.
ThunderTalk are losing the collapse on the right side. Here comes the rest of WE. Junhao completely compromised, and here comes ThunderTalk. Now looking for a re-engage. They have to buy time for the bullet time on Ryan, but he is forced to walk away. Heru pushes them all back with the Ember's Divide. Keshi steps in front, tries to absorb pressure. Good flash from Heru to reposition right into the back line, but Karis and the rest of WE are pushing forward, and Keshi just might give his life. All 4 members are critically low. Heru, does he want to fight? Does he want to dash out? Cube comes to the TP. He goes forward and can't finish off a single member. It's all disaster for ThunderTalk Gaming, and WE don't lose a single man in the 5-man ace of ThunderTalk.
No.
Baron does give a stray over to About as he was recalling, but the Baron will go over to WE anyway.
What a fight from WE! Who is it once again but Karis, who steps up big? ThunderTalk pull the trigger, but they pull the trigger in the wrong direction. It's Junhao ulting on top of Cube, the Yorick. They want to stop that flank angle that they saw in the EDG series, but they're not able to kill the Yorick, and now so many resources have been burned, and it's Karis who finds the stolen Malphite ultimate onto 2, completely disrupts the front line. And at this point onwards, it's really difficult to play it out. Heru does a great job spacing this fight with the flash and is in a position where he could potentially take over, but Keshi just doesn't have the health bar. WE has enough resources to continue to fight, and those low blinking health bars are not going to go down. Cube TP's back in. Heru goes for the last-ditch effort, is able to get just enough damage down to kill About once the Baron ends up going, but that's a huge swing. ThunderTalk went from in a great position to losing this game. WE has Baron, and they have full control of the map with their comp.
If only Heru had just a little bit more gold in his pocket and had a death cap in his inventory, you could imagine that that is a fight where he just completely takes over in 1v4s. Okay, well, we're all just gonna dogpile on the Cube and say goodnight to the Yorick. That's a shutdown going over to Ryan, but meanwhile, rest of WE using their Baron buff to just push through mid. They take out the tier 2, now pressuring the inhibitor tower.
Yeah, this is a very tough thing to stop. We talked about WE's comp being efficient. There could have been in some danger. That's Nautilus ult stolen, so Ryan has to be very, very careful in this fight. He can get the bullet time interrupted basically at any moment. They need to give up this inhibitor and just hope and pray that they can survive. This Baron buff is likely going to expire, but as we can see on the top of your screen, that gold lead has been secured for WE. It's a nice trade back, actually, with Keshi taking that tier 2 on the top side, so ends up actually being a relatively okay play overall for ThunderTalk, but certainly still in favor of WE.
Yeah, I'll give respect over to the solo laners for ThunderTalk. Not sure if it was their call or someone else's call on the squad, but both of them said, guys, there's nothing we can do about this siege anyway, so there's no point in us being there to try and stop it. Let's just try to get more resources. Let's get more gold on our solo laners. Keshi pushes out that top side. You even saw Heru, after they got the pick on the Cube, get some extra gold for himself, and he finishes his death cap. So maybe Heru can look for another moment where he is able to actually win that 1v4 that could have changed the game for ThunderTalk. There's another dragon that has spawned. It's the 4th one of the game. Neither team is that close to soul point. So this is a moment where if ThunderTalk do not feel comfortable, they do not have to fight here. They can wait.
I don't think they want to wait, Raafaa. I think they want to take this dragon. They're going to start it up here very quickly. I think the fight is imminent.
Keshi looking for the flank. A ward will spot him if he ever goes past that red buff brush. He's going to go into the blast. Instead, Junhao steals it away. Keshi now pressing on the left side. Bullet time rips open Monki, but now they turn on to the Mbessa. Junhao only clips one with the ultimate, and now WE have the momentum. They can charge forward. Heru tries to create space with the Emperor's Divide, but Ryan does not have a bullet time anymore, so he is just forced to run away. It is 30 seconds on the next member for ThunderTalk to spawn. It could just be enough time for WE to end the game.
They will be able to march their way into the base off of that fight and close out this game. It looked precarious for a little bit, but WE able to walk out 3-0 at the very least after their 3rd game of the split.
There were a couple moments where it looked dicey for WE, getting maybe a little too ambitious, a little disrespectful about the tools that ThunderTalk Gaming had at their disposal, but that Baron fight, you called it, Kman, was so crucial and was the game decider effectively. And unless there was an absolute series of unfortunate events written by Lemony Snicket himself for WE, there was no way in hell ThunderTalk were going to come back from that one.
Yeah, it's very tough. They put themselves in such a hole in that draft to, you know, even really begin with, that the moment that you start to lose control of the map, now you're staring down a Sylas that can take over any fight. You're staring down even really like a Varus that can poke you out as this entire game goes along. You are praying and hoping that you can get the perfect engage coming in from your Malphite. And when that doesn't happen, when you clip a Braum in a final fight, or when that ult goes onto a Yorick and you're not even able to kill, that's a problem. And the game kind of dissolves from there.
Yeah. Oh, I feel so woeful for Heru, man, because you could see in his player movement that the tension and the aspiration of getting a debut game highlight play in that 1v4 position from the Azir, that's what he was hoping for, and he was just desperate. But then with Cube coming in on the right side flank of the teleport, you're caught. You're caught in the middle, and suddenly your options are running out, and you have to do something. You have to commit forward, even if it is not ideal for you. And Heru goes down swinging, and unfortunately, he can't even, not right away, get about, or any of the other members. Obviously, the Baron Tentacle just pimp slaps him across the face while he was trying to recall, which was pretty darn funny, but that was effectively game one wrapped up. And going forward, Kman, we have to wait for Player of the Game awards. I'm torn between either Monki or Karis.
Yeah, I think those are probably the main two that are going to be getting a lot of looks here. Monki's early game was tremendously good. Punishing that bot lane 2v2 really set WE up into a great spot. But when you're talking about the late game plays that really sealed everything, it was Karis in those big fights that once again was really coming up clutch. He's been excellent in the team fights of this split so far. And for me, I think that Sylas was really kind of the main piece of game number one.
Yeah, like we said, there have not been enough Sylas punishes or just Malphite punish picks in the LPL when this champion gets through the draft. And when it does, there's only been a couple times where people recognize, you know what? Malphite's a tank. He gets destroyed by Trundle. Malphite has a powerful ultimate. Is Sylas banned? No? All right, well, let's slam it. And so ThunderTalk get their first taste of what happens when you don't take precautions when you're trying to set up for a Malphite first pick.
Yeah, I mean, this was just, I hate to simplify it, you know, boil it down to something so easy, but this is as draft gap as you can probably get in game number one in terms of just setting yourself up for a tough game, and it really ended up panning out like that. Again, I do want to give a lot of credit to the BLGJ solo laners for ThunderTalk, Keshi and Heru, who I think both tried their absolute best to win this game. They were both great in lane and generated resources, but when those Malphite ults go awry, when they're not landing, when Feather is dying first in every fight, when you have to burn resources just to zone out a Yorick from your team fights, it just becomes so difficult to end up finding ways to engage because you have so few resources. You know what? I'm glad we're showing this. It all started with this. It all started with the flash for Dragon.
I'm trying to think. You know what? I think that Dragon Steal is actually so big because ThunderTalk had actually secured the third dragon of the game towards the end. Had they got that first dragon, they would have been on soul point by that last fight. Now, with Mountain Soul in the midst of that fight, I don't know if it matters that much, but the pressure does kind of swing things a bit. Obviously, it's one of those flow chart decisions that if that decision changes, then who knows what else changes in the entire, I mean, we get into multiverse paradox kind of conundrums here, but something I didn't even notice until this replay right now, it was Glacial Fissure that interrupted the bullet time. Yeah. When we talked about things that could interrupt bullet time, we talked about mostly Pillar. Freaking Glacial Fissure from Braum, poor Ryan. Listen, I'm not an AD carry main, but if I see Trundle and my coach drafts me Misfortune, I'm like, are you serious, dog? Like,
hey, you
can
know,
I play something else?
Especially when you get ganked like level 3 by a Trundle and you're just like, whoa, well, this is the one part of the game that I'm supposed to have fun. I'm not allowed to have fun at any other point throughout this entire game, and you're not even letting me have this one. It's definitely a little bit tough for Ryan in his LPL debut, but you know, I think the positive is that, you know, you're not going to be able to do it again. So you don't have to worry about that too much. This is off the board going into game number 2. And hopefully they're going to have a comp that is as easy to execute on, as simplistic and straightforward, but maybe not quite as easily walked into by a counter pick.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Heru once again. 23.7k damage on the Azir. I think he had the most damage in the game. Definitely on his team. I think maybe About was the person that was either close to out-damaging him, if not did by about. I'm trying to remember what his damage number was, if it was either 24k or just 20k. But, yeah. Honestly, I can see the hype behind Heru because he played for his own advantages as much as possible, which I don't think it was his fault. His bot lane got completely crippled, and that's all you can do. And yeah, Monki, player of the game, makes sense. Ran the early game and set Team WE up for success. So good to see Monki back in this kind of form.
For Flash alone, this he's deserved. It's earned. It's everything you could want. We got the aggressive Monki back. We got him skirmishing in the jungle. WE look very, very good right now.
Always a pleasure to see Monki being that aggressive again, and maybe it's a good sign of things to come for Team WE. Now, before we toss over to break, if you would like to support LPL English, consider